First contact under fire. The research vessel. Luminous inquiry shuddered as another energy blast struck its failing shields. Captain Zyrex clutched the command console, his translucent blue skin pulsing with stress patterns as he watched the enemy, ships circling like predators around wounded prey. Shield integrity at 23%, reported Science Officer Tala, her four-fingered hands moving frantically across the control panel. The Vorax are preparing for another attack run. How many ships now? Asked Zyrex, though he already knew the answer would bring no comfort. 7 confirmed vessels, 2 more appearing from the asteroid field. Tala's voice remained steady, but her skin betrayed her fear with rapid color shifts. The Arxians were scientists and explorers, not warriors. Their species had evolved on a world with few natural predators, developing intelligence and cooperation rather than aggression. It had served them well as they explored the galaxy, until they encountered the Vorax, a species that saw all others as prey. Begin emergency data transmission to the homeworld, ordered Zyrex. All of our findings on the crystalline formations must be preserved. Transmission initiated, but the Vorax are jamming our long-range communications, said Tala. The signal won't reach beyond this system. The bridge fell silent. Every Arxian knew what that meant. Their discoveries would die with them, and other research vessels would eventually suffer the same fate upon entering this resource-rich system. The ship rocked violently as another blast hit them directly. Shields at 12%, announced the systems operator. We cannot withstand another coordinated attack. Zyrex was preparing his final words as captain when the sensor array chimed with an unexpected alert. New contact detected, Tala said, confusion evident in her voice. Small vessel, unknown configuration. It's on an intercept course, with the Vorax lead ship. On the main view screen, a sleek craft no larger than a shuttle appeared, moving at tremendous speed directly toward the largest Vorax vessel. The Vorax, seemingly confused by this new development, adjusted their formation. What species would be foolish enough to... Zyrex's words died in his throat as the small ship performed a maneuver that defied conventional space tactics. Instead of avoiding the Vorax's weapons range, the unknown vessel accelerated directly toward it, only to execute a last-second evasive pattern that caused the Vorax to fire upon one of their own ships in the confusion. The small craft then released what appeared to be simple mining explosives, precisely targeted at the Vorax lead ship's sensor array. Impossible, whispered Tala. That level of precision piloting. The Vorax formation broke apart as their lead ship spun out of control, its navigation systems damaged. The small vessel continued its erratic, unpredictable movements, somehow anticipating the Vorax attack patterns. We're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel, said the communications officer. Audio only. Put it through, ordered Zyrex. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in trade language with an unfamiliar accent. Arxian vessel, this is scout ship Artemis. I can't hold them off for long. Your shields are failing. I'm creating a diversion. Be ready to follow my vector toward the gas giant's moon. The magnetic field should provide temporary cover. The bridge crew turned to Zyrex in confusion. No one had identified their species to this stranger. How does this pilot know we're Arxian? Asked Tala. Unknown, but they're fighting the Vorax to protect us, replied Zyrex. Helmsman, prepare to follow their course on my mark. The small ship continued its dance with the Vorax, drawing their fire while gradually leading both the Predators and the Arxian vessel toward the large moon orbiting the system's gas giant. 3 Vorax ships peeled off to pursue the unknown vessel directly, while the others continued to fire upon the luminous inquiry. The small ship is hailing us again, reported the communications officer. Their tactics make no sense, muttered Tala. They're deliberately drawing fire away from us, at great risk to themselves. The voice returned. Arxian vessel, when I give the signal, engage your emergency thrusters at full capacity and head directly into the moon's exosphere. Trust me. Who are you? Zyrex asked. There was a pause before the reply came. A friend. Get ready. Now. The small vessel suddenly released a cloud of particles that ignited in a brilliant flash, temporarily blinding the Vorax sensors. The luminous inquiry surged forward on emergency power, following the smaller craft into the moon's upper atmosphere. The Vorax ships followed, but as they entered the atmosphere, their energy weapons began to malfunction in the unusual magnetic field. The small vessel led the Arxians to a canyon deep enough to shield them from immediate detection. "We've lost them for now," said Tala, checking the sensors. "But they'll find us eventually." "The unknown vessel is requesting permission to dock," reported the hangar control officer. Zyrex hesitated only briefly. "Granted. Security team to the hangar bay, non-aggressive posture, but stay alert. This pilot just saved our lives, but we know nothing about them." Minutes later, the security team escorted a single figure onto the bridge. The crew fell silent as they beheld a species none of them had ever encountered. The being was bipedal, shorter than most Arxians, with brown skin and dark hair tied back from its face. It wore a fitted flight suit with patches bearing unfamiliar symbols. "Hello," said the being, raising an empty hand in what seemed to be a peaceful gesture. "I'm Scout Pilot Alara Chen of Earth's Interstellar Exploration Division. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but you looked like you needed help." "Earth?" repeated Zyrex. "We have no records of such a world or species." Alara smiled, revealing flat teeth with small canines. "That doesn't surprise me. We're new to this sector of space. I was on a solo mapping mission when I detected your distress signals and the Vorax energy signatures." She looked around the bridge. "You're Arxians, right? I've studied xenobiology reports about your species, though this is my first actual meeting." Tala stepped forward. "How did you know how to fight the Vorax? They've hunted our research vessels for cycles." Ilara's expression grew serious. "Let's just say humans have some experience with predators. Those Vorax ships have a predictable attack pattern once you understand their psychology." She glanced at the view screen showing the Vorax ships beginning a search pattern. "But they'll find us soon. They don't give up easily once they've chosen prey. We owe you our gratitude," said Zyrex formally. "But I fear you've only delayed the inevitable. Our ship is damaged, our shields are failing, and we're outnumbered." Ilara studied the Arxian captain with curious eyes. Perhaps you've just gained something the Vorax weren't expecting." "And what is that?" asked Tala. The human's lips curved into what the Arxians would later learn was a determined smile. "The human factor." Before Zyrex could ask what she meant, the sensors blared another alert. "Captain," called the sensor operator. "3 more Vorax ships have entered the system. They're converging on our position." Ilara moved to the tactical display without invitation, studying it with intense focus. 12 against 2 and one of us is damaged," she murmured. "Not great odds." She looked up at Zyrex. "But I've seen worse. Do you trust me enough to try something unconventional, Captain?" The Arxian crew looked to their captain as he considered the human who had appeared from nowhere to save them. They were surrounded, damaged, and out of options. "What do you propose? Scout Pilot Chen?" Ilara's eyes gleamed with a strange mix of calculation and excitement that the Arxians had never seen in a sentient species before. "First, I need to know everything about your ship's capabilities. Then we're going to show the Vorax something they've never encountered." "And what is that?" asked Tala. "Human ingenuity," replied Ilara. "And the reason why, on my world, predators learned to fear the prey that fought back." The human factor. The command center of the Luminous Inquiry had transformed from an atmosphere of despair to one of frantic activity. Alara Chen moved between workstations with a confidence that both puzzled and inspired the Arxian crew. They were scientists, accustomed to methodical approaches and careful analysis, yet this human operated with a strange blend of intuition and calculated risk. "Your shield modulation is too predictable," Alara explained to the engineering team. "The Vorax are calibrating their weapons to the frequency pattern." Chief Engineer Call, his tendrils twitching with skepticism, replied, "Random shield modulation would be inefficient. It requires 37% more energy." Ilara nodded. "Yes, but being dead is 100% inefficient. Trust me on this." Captain Zyrex observed the interaction with fascination. In the 3 hours since the human had come aboard, she had identified vulnerabilities in their systems that the Arxians had never considered. Their logical, evolutionary path had created blind spots, patterns of thinking that the predatory Vorax had learned to exploit. Your species evolved differently than most spacefaring civilizations, noted Tala, who had been assigned as Ilara's liaison. You display both cooperative and competitive behaviors simultaneously. Ilara smiled as she reconfigured the tactical display. On Earth, we were middle-order predators for most of our evolution. We hunted, but we were also hunted. It shaped how we think. That explains your unpredictable tactics, said Xerex, joining them. The Vorax expect logical prey behavior, either fight directly or flee directly. Exactly. Ilara pointed to the display showing the Vorax search pattern. They think like apex predators because that's what they are. But humans, she paused, considering her words, we're something else entirely. We understand both sides of the equation. The ship's sensors chimed an alert. They've found us, reported the sensor operator. All 12 Vorax vessels are moving into attack formation. Sooner than I expected, muttered Ilara. Are the modifications to the shield system complete? Yes, confirmed Call, though I maintain my objection to this inefficient use of power. Noted, said Ilara. What about the communication buoys? Prepared. According to your specifications, replied another engineer. Though I don't understand how simple communication devices will help against Vorax weaponry. Ilara's expression hardened in a way the Arxians hadn't seen before. They're not just communication devices anymore. Xerex returned to the command chair. All crew to battle stations. Implement Chen Protocol Alpha. The Arxians moved with precision, but there was a new energy in their movements, something that hadn't been there before. Ilara had called it hope, but to the Arxians it felt more like a strange fusion of fear and possibility. The Vorax are hailing us, reported the communications officer with surprise. They never communicate with prey. Put it through, ordered Xerex. A harsh, guttural voice filled the bridge. Arxian vessel and unknown craft. You have intruded on Vorax hunting territory. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resistance will only extend your suffering. Ilara stepped forward. May I? She asked Xerex. The captain nodded, curious about what the human would say. This is Scout Pilot. Ilara Chen of Earth, she announced clearly. We acknowledge your message and offer this response. Come and get us. She cut the transmission before the Vorax could reply. The Arxian crew stared at her in shock. You challenged them? Asked Tala, her skin pulsing with alarm patterns. I made them angry, corrected Ilara. Angry predators make mistakes. The tactical display showed the Vorax formation shifting, becoming more aggressive and less coordinated. It's working, observed Xerex with surprise. They're breaking their standard attack pattern. Ilara moved to the helm station. That's just step one. When they come at us, they'll expect us to either run toward open space or make a stand and fight. We're going to do neither. She pointed to the dense asteroid field nearby. We're going in there. That's suicide, protested Call. Our navigation systems cannot process the debris field variables quickly enough for safe passage. Not with your standard algorithms, agreed Ilara. But I've uploaded a new navigation approach to your systems. It's based on fluid dynamics rather than fixed-point calculations. The bridge crew exchanged glances. These concepts were foreign to their methodical way of thinking, yet the human spoke with such certainty. The Vorax are moving into firing range, reported the tactical officer. Shields to Chen random modulation, ordered Xerex. Helm, prepare for asteroid field insertion on Scout Chen's mark. Ilara took a position beside the helmsman. On my mark, 3, 2, 1, execute. The luminous inquiry surged forward, its engine straining as it accelerated directly toward the Vorax formation. At the last possible moment, the ship veered sharply, releasing the modified communication buoys in a scattered pattern before diving into the asteroid field. Behind them, The Vorax ships fired, but the randomly modulating shields absorbed the initial barrage better than expected. Several Vorax vessels followed them into the asteroid field while others circled its perimeter, waiting for them to emerge. "Detonation sequence for the buoys?" asked Zyrex. "Not yet," replied Alara, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "We need more of them to commit to the chase." Inside the asteroid field, the luminous inquiry moved in patterns that defied conventional space navigation. Instead of avoiding the asteroids, they used them as shields, sometimes even nudging smaller ones into the path of pursuing Vorax ships. 7 Vorax vessels now inside the asteroid field, reported the tactical officer. 2 have sustained minor damage from debris collisions. "They're not used to prey that uses the environment as a weapon," explained Alara. "Now, let's show them something else they're not expecting." She turned to Zyrex. "Captain, I need control of your primary research equipment, specifically the crystalline formation analysis tools." Zyrex hesitated only briefly. "Granted, but what possible use?" "Your spectral analysis equipment can be repurposed," Alara explained quickly as they evaded another Vorax ship. "If we reconfigure the emitters to match the resonant frequency of the specific mineral composition in these asteroids." Understanding dawned in Tala's eyes. "You want to trigger a chain reaction in the asteroid field itself." "Exactly," said Alara with a nod of approval. "Not enough to destroy the asteroids, just enough to create a debris cloud that will blind their sensors and damage their external weapon systems. That's not how our research equipment was designed to function," protested Kal. "Welcome to humanity's greatest skill," replied Alara with a grim smile. "Creative repurposing." As the Arxian scientists hurriedly reconfigured their equipment, according to Alara's specifications, the Vorax closed in from multiple directions. "We can't evade much longer," warned the helmsman. "Our predictive algorithms are reaching their calculation limits." "Then we stop evading," said Alara. "Bring us to relative stop behind that large nickel-iron asteroid. Divert all power from engines to the modified research emitters." The ship shuddered to a halt in the shadow of a massive asteroid as the scientists completed their modifications. "Emitters ready," reported Tala. "But the effect radius is unknown. We've never used our equipment this way." "That's the point," said Alara. "The Vorax have never seen it used this way either." She checked the tactical display one last time. 9 Vorax ships now in the field, converging on our position. "Perfect." She looked to Zyrex. "Captain, the honor is yours." Zyrex gave the command. "Activate modified emitters." The ship hummed as the research equipment channeled energy in ways its designers never intended. A barely visible wave of energy pulsed outward, connecting with the surrounding asteroids. For a moment, nothing happened. "It's not," began Kal, but Alara raised a hand to silence him. "Wait for it." Suddenly, the asteroids around them began to shimmer. The mineral deposits within them resonated with the energy pulse, creating cascading microfractures across their surfaces. Within seconds, clouds of metallic dust erupted from dozens of asteroids simultaneously, expanding outward in a glittering, sensor-blinding wave. On the tactical display, the Vorax ships' movements became erratic as their sensors failed. 2 collided with asteroids they could no longer detect properly. "Now the buoys," said Alara, "detonate in sequence alpha." The modified communication buoys exploded one after another, their electromagnetic pulses amplified by the metallic dust cloud. The Vorax ship's weapon systems flickered and failed as the precisely calibrated pulses disrupted their power distribution networks. 3 Vorax vessels have lost all power, reported the tactical officer with disbelief. 4 others show significant systems damage. The remaining 5 are retreating to the edge of the asteroid field. The Arxian crew stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. Never in their history of encounters with the Vorax had they seen the Predators retreat. "How did you know this would work?" asked Zyrex, turning to Alara. The human shrugged. "I didn't, not with certainty. But I understood how they think. and I knew they wouldn't be prepared for this kind of approach. You risked everything on an uncertain outcome? Tala's skin pulsed, with patterns the translator couldn't quite capture. That's the human factor, replied Ilara. We live in uncertainty. We evolved with it. Sometimes the only way to survive is to embrace it. Captain Zyrex studied the human with new understanding. You're not just prey that learned to fight back. You're something else entirely. We're survivors, said Ilara simply, and we're very, very good at improvising. Before Zyrex could respond, the tactical display updated with alarming new information. Captain, called the sensor officer, the remaining 5 Vorax ships are regrouping. They're being joined by 3 more vessels entering the system. They appear to be a different class, larger, heavily armed. Ilara's expression darkened. Reinforcements. And they'll have adapted to our tactics. Then we've only delayed the inevitable, said Kel, his earlier skepticism returning. No, said Ilara, her eyes taking on that strange gleam again. That mixed calculation with something the Arxians couldn't quite name. We've just discovered their weakness. Now it's time to exploit it. How? Asked Zyrex. We've used our advantages. The element of surprise is gone. Ilara moved to the main console, pulling up schematics of both their ships. Captain, I have a plan, but it's going to require something your people may find difficult. What's that? The human looked around at the Arxian crew, her expression serious but determined. I need you to think like humans. I need you to embrace the irrational. She pointed to a section of the Luminous Inquiry's schematics. And I need volunteers for something very, very dangerous. Unpredictable victory. The 8 Vorax ships moved in a tight hunting formation as they entered the asteroid field. There, sensors probed the debris clouds, searching for the Arxian vessel and the strange new ship that had dared to challenge them. The lead vessel was commanded by Huntmaster Kresh, a veteran of 100 successful hunts. This prey had proven unexpectedly resourceful, but the outcome was inevitable. Prey always fell to predators. It was the natural order. We have located energy signatures consistent with the Arxian vessel, reported a Vorax sensor operator. They appear to be attempting to hide in the denser portion of the asteroid field. Kresh displayed his teeth in the Vorax expression of anticipation. They learn nothing. Hiding only delays the inevitable. Prepare main weapons and approach in spiral formation delta. Leave no escape route. The Vorax ships moved forward cautiously, having learned from their earlier losses. Their improved sensors penetrated the lingering dust clouds, revealing heat signatures and energy emissions from their quarry. Curious, noted the second in command. The energy pattern is inconsistent with previous readings. They attempt deception, growled Kresh. It changes nothing. Close to firing range and prepare boarding parties. I want specimens of the new species for study. As the Vorax ships closed in, they detected unusual movement. What appeared to be escape pods launched from the hidden vessel, scattering in multiple directions through the asteroid field. They abandoned their vessel, said the second in command with satisfaction. Desperate prey trying to save some while sacrificing others. Track all escape pods, ordered Kresh. None will escape, but first we take the main vessel. The Vorax ships surrounded what their sensors indicated was the hiding place of the Luminous Inquiry. As they prepared to fire, the asteroid debris suddenly shifted, revealing not the Arxian research vessel but Ilara's small scout ship, modified and emitting false energy signatures. Deception, snarled Kresh. Find the true. His order was cut short as the scout ship's engines overloaded in a blinding flash, releasing a carefully calibrated electromagnetic pulse that temporarily blinded the Vorax sensors. In the confusion, what the Vorax had dismissed, as escape pods suddenly changed course, converging on the largest Vorax vessel, Kresh's command ship. Inside one of these pods, Ilara Chen braced herself as they approached the Vorax flagship. Impact in 15 seconds, reported Tala, who had volunteered for this mission despite her fear. The magnetic grapples are ready. Beside them, 4 Arxian crew members checked their equipment one last time. They wore modified environmental suits that Alara had helped them reconfigure for this unprecedented mission. "Remember," said Alara, "everything depends on timing. We move as a unit, no hesitation." The pod struck the hull of the Vorax ship and immediately deployed its magnetic grapples, securing itself to the outer shell. Similar impacts echoed around them as the other pods, 5 in total, attached to different sections of the ship. "Cutting charges set," reported one of the Arxian engineers. "Breach in 3, 2, 1. A controlled explosion created an opening in the Vorax ship's hull. Atmosphere hissed out briefly before emergency force fields activated. Alara led her team through the breach before the Vorax could respond. "Move quickly," she instructed. Following the mapped route to their central command. The interior of the Vorax ship was designed for predators, angular, dimly lit, with corridors that seemed to funnel intruders into predetermined kill zones. But Alara had studied the limited data available on Vorax ship designs, identifying weaknesses in their security systems. "They rely too much on intimidation," she explained as they evaded the first security checkpoint. "They expect prey to be predictable, to either freeze in fear or run blindly." The Arxians moved with uncharacteristic stealth following Alara's lead. They had never considered such tactics before. Direct infiltration of a predator vessel would have been deemed irrational and suicidal by their logical standards. Yet here they were, moving deeper into the ship, while the Vorax still struggled to understand what was happening. "Security alert initiated," reported Tala, monitoring Vorax communications with a device Alara had helped create. "They're searching for us, but they're confused. The other teams are creating successful diversions." Alara nodded grimly. The Vorax think in pack hierarchies. Cut off the head and the body falters. She checked the makeshift scanner she'd built from Arxian research equipment. "Command center is 2 levels up. We need to access their central elevator shaft." They encountered their first Vorax patrol at the elevator access point. The Vorax, tall and heavily muscled with predatory features and natural armor, spotted them immediately. "Intruders," growled the lead Vorax, raising a weapon. Before the Vorax could fire, Alara activated a device that emitted a high-frequency sound. The Vorax flinched, their sensitive auditory organs overwhelmed by the tone that was specifically calibrated to their hearing range. "Now," shouted Alara. The Arxians fired their modified research tools, which now projected focused energy beams that overloaded the Vorax neural systems without killing them. The patrol collapsed, temporarily incapacitated. "You didn't kill them," observed Tala with surprise. "Not necessary," replied Alara, already working to access the elevator shaft. "Unnecessary killing wastes energy and time." This concept, measured response rather than maximum force, was another revelation to the Arxians. The Vorax always killed when they could. It was their nature. This human approach to conflict was alien to both predator and prey mentalities. They climbed the emergency ladders in the elevator shaft, emerging on the command level. Alarms blared throughout the ship now as the other infiltration teams executed their part of Alara's plan, disabling engines, weapon systems, and communications in coordinated strikes. "Command center ahead," whispered Alara, consulting her scanner. 6 Vorax inside, including their huntmaster. "How can we overcome 6 Vorax warriors?" asked one of the Arxian team members, his skin pulsing with anxiety patterns. Alara removed a small device from her pack, a sphere she had constructed from components scavenged from both her scout ship and the Luminous Inquiry. "With this," she said, "one shot, one opportunity. When I give the signal, open the door and I'll throw this in. Then we move, exactly as we practiced." The Arxians positioned themselves, and on Alara's signal, the engineer overrode the door controls. As the command center doors slid open, Alara rolled the device inside. It detonated with a flash of light and a concentrated electromagnetic pulse specifically calibrated to Vorax neural patterns. Alara led the charge into the room. The Vorax inside were disoriented but recovering quickly. Hunt Master Kresh, larger, and more imposing than the others, was already shaking off the effects, his predatory eyes focusing on the intruders. "What is this prey that hunts?" he snarled, reaching for a weapon. Ilara moved with the speed and precision that had so impressed the Arxians, firing her modified weapon directly at the control console beside Kresh. The console exploded in a shower of sparks, the feedback knocking the Huntmaster back. "Secure the room," ordered Ilara. The Arxians, finding courage they never knew they possessed, used their modified research tools to incapacitate the remaining Vorax officers. Within moments, they controlled the command center. Tala immediately began accessing the ship's communication systems. "All teams report success," she announced. "Engines disabled, weapons offline, communication arrays compromised." Ilara approached, Huntmaster Kresh, who glared at her with predatory hatred. "Impossible," he growled. "Prey does not hunt. It is not the natural order." "That's where you're wrong," said Ilara calmly. "Humans rewrote the natural order long ago. We were prey that learned to think like predators but without losing our capacity for cooperation and empathy." She gestured to the Arxians. "Just as they are natural scientists who can learn to be warriors when necessary." She activated the ship-wide communication system. "Attention Vorax vessels. This is Scout Pilot Ilara Chen of Earth. Your flagship is under our control. Your Huntmaster is our captive. Withdraw from this system immediately or we will destroy your command ship and everyone aboard." For several tense moments there was no response. The Vorax ships maintained their positions. "They do not believe you will do it," said Kresh with a predatory grin. "Prey does not destroy when it can flee. It is not logical." Ilara met his gaze steadily. "That's the problem with thinking in absolutes, you miss the nuances." She turned to Tala. "Transmit the engine overload sequence to one of the disabled Vorax ships, the empty one our second team secured." Tala complied, and moments later, one of the damaged Vorax vessels that had been drifting in the asteroid field exploded spectacularly. "That was unmanned," Ilara told Kresh. "The next one won't be. Humans protect life when we can, but we will destroy when we must." She addressed the communication system again. "You have 5 minutes to withdraw from this system. After that, we begin executing your command crew, starting with your Huntmaster." The remaining Vorax ships began to move, slowly at first, then with increasing speed as they retreated from the asteroid field. "They're withdrawing," confirmed Tala with amazement. "Of course they are," said Ilara. "Predators understand force and consequence. They just never expected prey to turn their own tactics against them." Kresh snarled. "This changes nothing. The Vorax will return in greater numbers. We will hunt your species to extinction for this humiliation." Ilara smiled in a way that made even the Arxians uncomfortable, a predator's smile on what the Vorax had mistaken for prey. "I was hoping you'd say that," she replied, activating a recording device. "This entire encounter has been documented and transmitted to both Arxian space and to human outposts. By now, both our peoples know about the Vorax and your intentions." She leaned closer to the Huntmaster. "You should understand something about humans, Kresh. We evolved on a world where we had to outsmart predators much larger and stronger than ourselves. We learned to use tools to cooperate, to plan ahead." She gestured to the Arxians. "And now you've given us something even more powerful. Allies. You've united two species that might never have met otherwise." Captain Zyrex entered the command center, accompanied by more Arxian crew members and humans from Ilara's scout ship that had remained hidden until now. "The luminous inquiry is secure," reported Zyrex. "The remaining Vorax ships have left the system." Ilara nodded with satisfaction. "Captain, I believe we should contact both our governments immediately. There's much to discuss about our new alliance." In the days that followed, as Arxian and human engineers worked together to repair their vessels using the captured Vorax ship for parts, an unprecedented cultural exchange took place. The Arxians were fascinated by humanity's dual nature, their capacity for both logical problem-solving and intuitive leaps, their ability to be both cooperative and competitive, both kind and fierce. "Your species is a paradox," Tala told Alara as they watched the stars from the observation deck. Predator and prey, scientist and warrior, logical and intuitive, all in one. That's humanity in a nutshell, agreed Alara. We contain multitudes and contradictions. It's what makes us adaptable. The Vorax will return, said Zyrex, joining them. They cannot ignore this defeat. I'm counting on it, replied Alara with a confident smile. By then they won't be facing just humans or just Arxians. They'll be facing something new. A partnership that combines the best of both our species. The scientific brilliance of the Arxians with the adaptive ingenuity of humans. She looked out at the stars, her expression thoughtful. The universe is vast and full of both wonders and dangers. Alone, we're vulnerable. Together, she smiled at her new allies. Together, we're unstoppable.